Hello guys, so today we are going to be talking about decision-making statements in Solidity, okay, and how you can be able to write them while working with smart contracts, all right? So with that being said, let's get straight right into it. All right, so let's briefly explain how you can be able to use this, okay? So decision-making statements in Solidity, such as the if-else statements, all right, that's what you're going to be working with most often, okay? So to always write it, this is the structure in which it always works, right? You always have an if statement. Within the if statement, you have a condition, all right, and there's an parenthesis, okay, which is going to hold a block of code. That's if this condition is met, then you want this block of code should run, all right? Else, you can go to the else statement. You can go with, you can say else. You can use another else if, you can, if necessary, you can say else if, okay, you add another condition. It's the condition here. If this condition is met, then you want this block of code. You can write a block of code here saying these statements, or let's say block of code should run, right? And finally, you can end it with an else statement, right? Let's say else. You want something else to run. Let's say you want the final statement, for instance, right? Yeah, so what's going to happen here is when the code runs, let's say you have these if else statements within a function. What you're trying to do here is when the code is run, right, or is deployed on chain, what you simply want is if the first condition is met, then you want this particular block of codes which you've written within these parameters, within these apprentices to run, or else if this other condition is met, you want this only to run and nothing else, right? So that's literally how you use it, this if else statements in Solidity, right? So let's look at the practical statement. Let's assume we want to check if a number is actually even or odd. Okay, so let's say we have a function, and this function we're going to call it is even. Okay, it's going to receive the number which we want to check if it's even or odd. So let's say uint value. Okay, we'll set this function to public, and it's going to return, let's make it to return a boolean value. That's either true or false if the number is even or odd. Okay, so we're trying to check with the decision-making statements. For example, you need to always start with if, then you have a condition, then we're going to say value mod 2, that's if it's equal to 0, that means it's an odd number. Okay, so if this condition is met, then we want to return the value of true. Okay. Else we want this other statement to run, that's return false. Okay, so what's going to happen here is we are simply checking if the value which was sent into this function is even or odd. Okay, so if this function is even, that's we're checking within this condition. So this is where the first condition is made. All right, so we can check by saying if the value divided by 2, okay, gives no remainder, that means the number is an even number, right? So that's why we return true, otherwise it's going to return false. Okay, there's no need to be giving multiple conditions here, right? So let's say we had another function. For instance, let's say function is greater. Let's just call this other function is greater. Okay, and this function is going to take in a parameter. Let's call it uint, and let's just call it val. All right, let's make it public. View returns, let's make it return a bool still. All right, and within this function, what's going to be happening is we're going to write in some if statements. Okay, if a certain condition is met, then you want what is within the parentheses of the conditions to be fulfilled, right? For instance, say if val is greater than 2, for instance, then return true. Well, let's change this return statement to be unit. Okay, unit. All right. So if this value is greater than 2, then we are going to return a value of, let's say, 3, for instance. We're going to return a value of 3, for instance. Okay. Let's change this to pure. Okay. Else. Now, since I want to give multiple conditions, I'm going to use the else if, right? Else if the condition is here, if val, right, less than 2, I'm going to return a value of, let's return, let's say it's less than 1 or less than 2, rather. We are going to return the value of 4. It's 4, right? And finally, the final code block, that's when you know is the end, else parentheses, we give now what the statement want to run, then return 0 in case nothing is happening here. Okay, so what's going to happen in this other function which we just created now is when this code is deployed on chain and this function is called, it's going to first of all check if the value given as a parameter is greater than 2. Okay, if this value is greater than 2, then this is all what is going to work. Okay, this is what's going to be returned. 3 is going to be returned. But if the value is less than 2, then we're going to return the value of 4. Otherwise, if the value is not less than 2, literally the value, let's see, these are the conditions here are not right. Okay, so the logic has to fall in place. As you can see, the logic here is not right because automatically else if we're returning 0, it simply means at all given moments 4 is always going to be either a value is going to be greater than 2, less than 2, or equal to 2 per se. So let's restructure the logic. Okay, so let's say if the value is greater than 2, then we're going to return, let's say, value of 4. This is just a random test for you to understand conditions in Solidity, okay? And let's say if the value is less than 2, we are going to return a value of, if it's less than 2, we're going to return a value of 3, for instance. If it's less than 2, we are going to be returning value of 3. And then let's write another else if. Let's say, for instance, else if val is greater than or equal to 2. In case it's equal to, then we should return the value of 2. Okay. I think this logic makes a little more sense. In case the value is greater than 2, return the value of 4. In case the value is less than, let's just make this 1 so it looks much more logical. In case the value is less than 2, return the value of, let's even make this one 3, so it kind of makes sense in a way. Okay, so in case the value is actually greater than 2, return the value of 3. In case the value is less than 2, return the value of 1. And in case the value is equal to, right, you can just, you must not put greater than or equal to, you can just put it like this as such. In case the value is equal to 2, then return the value of 2. Okay, so with this logic, it kind of makes sense, right? So let's save this contract and we test to see if this actually works. Okay, so I'm going to save it. I'm using the Remix IDE. So I'm going to save this contract right now. And after saving this contract, I'm going to deploy the contract. Okay, so I'm going to deploy this contract right here. Let me open my terminal so you can see what's happening. Okay, so this is the contract which we just wrote. We can see 2 functions. Okay, so we are going to test first of all is even. Okay, so in the is even function, we expect to see false. Okay, if the number we input is actually not even. Otherwise, if it's even, we expect to see a true value. Okay, so if I should input, for example, 11 down here, and I should let me just put it down. If I should put 11 here and I should call, all right. If I open the terminal, we can see 11 was given as a value and we see a value of 4. So right. But if I should put if here I should put a value of, let's say 10 for instance, and I call, okay, we expect to see a value of true. So as input, we put in 10 and the Boolean value was true, right? So that's nice, right? So let's come to the greater than function. Let's also put a value of, remember this is the logic for the greater function, right? So if the value is greater than 2, then the return, we're going to see a value of 3. So if we put a value of, for instance, let's put a value of 4, for instance, and let me call the function, we expect to see a value of 3, okay? So if I should go on my terminal, we still put a value of 4, we get a value of 3, because we said anything greater than 2 should return a value of 3, okay? So if I should put a value of, for instance, let's say 2, we expect to see a value of 2, right? Should put a value of 2, and I call this function. Let's check to see what we have. Okay, so we get a return value of 2, okay? So this is a very basic function, right? It doesn't matter how long your code is. If you give your conditions, okay, you can write so many statements within the if statement, okay? So many different block of codes within this if statement. So you meet up with the criteria which you're trying to meet, okay? So it's just a decision making kind of statement in Solidity that helps you to be able to choose different kind of parameters, right, while working with codes, right? So with that being said, I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video, and don't forget to click the like button and subscribe for further content like this. See you guys in the next